What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports NASCAR Weekly Prediction Series. Last week of the regular season in Daytona International Speedway, the self-proclaimed world center of racing. Things always get wacky at Daytona. They get extra wacky when it is the last race of the regular season in the last chance for playoff drivers the last chance for drivers to clinch a spot in the playoffs with a win if they have not already. So without further ado, let's get into it. Storylines going into Daytona. Austin Dillon finds redemption after all of that craziness last year at Richmond, where he wrecked two cars, ended up winning the race but not getting in the playoffs because the manner in which he won. This year, there is no drama. Won by 2.5, 3 seconds over Alex Bowman and was one of the fastest cars on the track all night. It was a deserved win. Great performance from Dillon and his team. Is it a deserved playoff spot? I would argue no. But I keep on having this playoff discussion. I might have a greater discussion about some of these things at the end of the season, or maybe I'll do a short reel, whatever you want to see. I don't want to spend too much time on this episode complaining about some of the same things I've been complaining about, because who wants to hear the same rant every week? Then you're just kind of being annoying. But yeah, you tell me in the comments below if you think Austin Dillon should be locked in the playoffs for this win, despite the fact that he's been around 30th in points all season. Now he's in the top 30. He's in between 25th and 30th, I think 28th. But you let me know in the comments below if you think he deserves it. And that's all I'll say about that. Do we get another new winner at Daytona? There's been 14 race winners so far. A 15th race winner would put Alex Bowman or Tyler Reddick out of the playoffs if it is not one of them, meaning somebody who's currently top 9 in the points would not make the playoffs. Wouldn't be the first time something this crazy happened. In fact, Martin Truex Jr. missed the playoffs one season when there was, I think, 15 or 16 individual winners, and he was third in points, which should never, ever happen. So is there another new winner at Daytona? Very possible. If there's any track that's going to produce chaos in a random winner that nobody thought was going to happen, it's Daytona. So again, who really knows what the heck is going to happen? Finally, has some good short track racing at Richmond. It definitely seems like the tires went a very long way. The drivers seem happy. There was a lot of passing all through the field, which is a good thing. Hopefully, the successful short track racing at Richmond will transfer to some other short tracks this season. Mistakes at Richmond. Thankfully, there was good racing at the short track, because there was, obviously the massive incident where Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, and sandwiched Chase Briscoe and got him loose and spun out, and it was a huge wreck. Took a lot of really good cars out. There was a lot of speeding penalties, a lot of wheels getting loose, all kinds of mistakes and carnage at Richmond. I don't think we've seen that many mistakes from that many different teams, and a wreck that took out so many top contenders in a while this season. And Dillon found a way to just be mistake free with a fast car and win the race. Sometimes that's all it takes. But yeah, I mean, you think Denny Hamlin getting in trouble, going to the back and racing his way to the front. There's some guys who went to the back and couldn't quite recover, like Bubba Wallace. You had strong cars getting taken out, like Tyler Reddick's car. All kinds of craziness happening at Richmond last weekend. And amongst it, remember that big wreck I said? Chase Elliott got taken out and finished last, which means William Byron is the regular season champ. Already clinched it, even though there's still a regular season race to go. Chase Elliott was really the only person that could catch him, and Chase Elliott had his worst finish of the season. Again, not his fault. Thought he was through the wreck. He could have had a top 10 this week and really put the pressure on going into Daytona, but no such luck. Elliott barely gets hit trying to make it through that big wreck, and then hits the wall, totals the car. Unfortunate for Chase Elliott, but William Byron with his first regular season championship, and I would argue he's the guy that deserved it. All but 2 weeks, he was the guy on top of the regular season points. Obviously, Chase Elliott went super hot, and Byron had a couple off weeks. But William Byron has been the regular season points leader for all but 2 weeks this season, I believe. Um, Hard to disagree that he deserves it. That team always seems to find speed, always seems to bring a fast race car to the racetrack, helps being part of Hendrick Motorsports. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this last point, but the schedule release is interesting. There's some good things to look forward to, but I think there's also some bad things. I haven't determined if I think it's more bad or more good. So I'm just going to say interesting and continue to look into all the details of this, and I'll report back. But yeah, I think I was hoping for a little bit more from NASCAR personally. Again, and if let me know in the comments what you think about NASCAR's schedule release. A lot of big changes, a lot of older tracks coming back, a lot of the newer, some of the new tracks leaving, um, moving around dates on the schedule, new location for the All Star race. You guys, let me know how you feel about the schedule release. History at Daytona in the next gen. Um, 7 races in the next gen at Daytona. Your winners: Austin Cindric and Austin Dillon in 2022. Ricky Stenhouse, that memorable Daytona 500 win. Chris Buescher. William Byron winning his first Daytona 500 in 2024. Harrison Burton from like 32nd in points getting into the playoffs, winning at Daytona. And then William Byron winning his second Daytona 500 in a row earlier this year. You know what you don't see? You don't see any Toyotas on this list. So maybe, Toyota looking for their first next gen win at Daytona. And remember, some pretty famous Toyota driver by the name of Denny Hamlin has won 3 500s. So maybe they're looking for that this week. A lot of Chevys, too. Out of these 7 races, 5 Chevys have won the race. So even though Fords have been really, really strong at these tracks in the next gen, Chevy apparently is finding a way to show up when it matters at the end. Best average finish, and because of Daytona and its craziness, none of these average finishes for drivers that have driven all 7 next gen races are inside the top 10. Bowman, who would have seen that coming? Alex Bowman, sneaky good finisher at these races, 10.4 average finish. Bubba Wallace, everybody knows his prowess on super speedways, average finish at 12.1. Buescher at 12.3. Kyle Busch at 12.9. Austin Cindric at 16. And then John Hunter Nemechek has an average finish of 9 in 4 races here, and Cody Ware has an average finish of 13.2 in 5 races here. Wouldn't it be crazy if Cody Ware won, the guy who's last in points out of all regular season drivers, winning it, no top 10, no top 5s, and he gets in? I keep saying this. That would be that should be the death kiss to this playoff format, but I've thought that before and it hasn't. So, but I digress. Most top 5s. Christopher Bell, 3 top 5s. And in typical Daytona fashion, he has 3 top 5s at the track, more than any other driver. Still not top 5 in average finish. 9 drivers are tied with 2. Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, Eric Almirola, who has only done 4 races in the next gen, obviously retired from the Cup Series. Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, William Byron, and Tyler Reddick. So even though Daytona has all this wackiness and craziness, it's still a lot of the big name drivers with the big name organizations that are the most consistent here. Most top 10s at Daytona, 3 drivers tied at 4, Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, and Kyle Busch. 7 drivers tied at 3, Bubba Wallace, Austin Cindric, Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, and William Byron. Again, a lot of the big name drivers from a lot of the typical organizations at the top of these lists. Favorites to win Daytona, you know me. I love a Ford to bring speed at super speedways, and I got 3 Ford teams on here. Team Penske leading them all. Blaney's fast. Cindric might be the best super speedway racer, and Joey Logano knows what he's doing too. Team Penske favorites to win this week, despite not yet. Well, I guess they won the first next gen Daytona race and haven't won one since. Maybe this is the week they find their way back to victory lane. RFK has won here in the past. RFK is just as fast as Penske is. Again, that Ford camp, very, very fast on super speedways. RFK Racing has 3 drivers that are essentially in a win to get in situation. Actually, I think all 3 of them are. which is a shame because two of them have been in the playoffs most of the year. They have two drivers in the top 15 in points, in Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher, and they're in a winning get in scenario. But RFK Racing certainly can do it, and everybody knows how good Brad Keselowski is around this track, and he's definitely not afraid to be aggressive. Hendrick Motorsports, maybe not a typical power you think of on super speedways, or I don't think it's always associated, but they need credit. Byron has won 2 races here. Chase Elliott has drafting wins at Atlanta, even if that's a little bit different. Bowman has the best average finish. Hendrick Motorsports can build some cars to win, and even historically, they have won some Daytona 500s before their current crop of drivers. Hendrick Motorsports doesn't always get the credit. I feel like it goes to the Forge, but they're pretty darn good at Daytona, and I see no reason that's going to be different this weekend. Joe Gibbs Racing, Bell and Hamlin both have good average finishes, both have good stats here. Haven't won here in the next gen, but like I said, Danny Hamlin has won 3 Daytona 500. Chase Briscoe won the pole and had a top 5 here to start the season. I think Joe Gibbs Racing should be fast enough where they should be competitive here. And then my wild card, I randomly added RCR last week, and they ended up winning in a must-win scenario. I'm going to put Front Row Motorsports at 5 this week. Yes, Ross Chastain has been fast at has been fast at drafting tracks. I believe he's even won at Talladega in the next gen. 23XI with Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick. They have both won at Talladega. 23XI arguably should be on this list, but I'm getting cute and I'm going Front Row. They've won at Daytona before. They're in the Ford camp. If there's one thing Front Row can do, it's bring a fast car to drafting tracks. I think you haven't heard from Front Row in a while. They've had some okay performances on road courses throughout the summer. I think Front Row shows up this weekend, qualifies in the top 10, and if things break their way, you could see a Gragson, a Zane Smith, or a Todd Gilliland in the playoffs. They're going to be fast this weekend, I promise you. Driver rankings. Austin Cindric, I think, is the favorite here with his winning Talladega, which was coincidentally the last super speedway race. Has also won a Daytona 500. Cindric, I think, is the driver I trust to consistently bring speed at these tracks. William Byron, he's won at Daytona in the last gen car. He's won in Daytona multiple times in the next gen car. Won the last 2 Daytona 500s. There's no way William Byron isn't fast as a competitor and a competitor. Joe Logano and Ryan Blaney are both fast at super speedways. They're part of Team Penske. I love Team Penske on super speedways. Logano a little bit more aggressive. He's going to push and get out there. And Ryan Blaney, again, just seems to have a knack for this type of racing. Denny Hamlin, talked about him multiple times. Pretty easy to see why he's in the top 5 when he has multiple wins here. Still looking for the first next gen win. Was in position to win the Daytona 500 before Custer caused that big wreck that led to Byron winning this year. Look out for Denny Hamlin. Chris Buescher won at Daytona not that long ago in the next gen car. Look out for Chris Buescher, especially because he is in a winning get in scenario, and he hasn't won since the playoffs last year, but he wasn't even in the playoffs, so it didn't matter. Chris Buescher wants to make it back to the playoffs. Bubba Wallace has never won Daytona. He's won at Talladega, even if it was rain-shortened. Bubba Wallace has had a pretty darn good summer. Maybe Bubba Wallace finds a way to his first Daytona win and his 4th career win. Alex Bowman, a guy that doesn't need a win to get in, but a win would make him feel a heck of a lot better, has a good average finish here. Kind of a quiet, sneaky performer on super speedways. He's good at it. Maybe he becomes the 4th Hendrick driver to win, finally clinching all 4 Hendrick cars into the playoffs this season. Christopher Bell won Atlanta earlier this year. Again, not the exact same thing, but it is still a drafting track. Has good performances at Daytona. Got wrecked leading a pack earlier this season. I think Christopher Bell hasn't won a points race in a while. Needs to build some momentum. Christopher Bell, he's going to have good equipment with JGR. Can he get his 4th race win, joining Denny Hamlin and Shane Van Gisbergen? And then again, I mentioned Front Row Motorsports. I almost put Todd Gilliland here, but why not put Zane Smith, somebody who was so good in the Truck Series for Front Row, now is in the Cup Series. Looking, maybe he gets Front Row their first playoff appearance in a while since Michael McDowell got it for him a couple years ago and gets their first race win since Michael McDowell got them in victory lane. Regular season standings, as I said, William Byron, 68 up on Chase Elliott. He's clinched it. However, the 2 through 6 race is incredibly interesting. That is a point differential. If you finish second, you get 10 playoff points. Okay? Third is 8, fourth is 7th, fifth should be 6. 10, 8, 7, 6, and then 6th place would get 5. So there is a 5-point difference between finishing second and 6th. I think these guys are going to be motivated. Chase Elliott obviously is currently second in regular season standings. Christopher Bell is currently 6th. You have Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and Blaney in between them. Blaney, by the way, late season push to get as high up as he could after, I think he was 8th. Maybe he was 7th and he was way back. But 2nd through 6th are separated by just 23 points. That is not that much, guys. I'm sure as you know, 23 points is not a lot of points, which means anybody from 2nd through 6th can really finish anywhere. And if 5th and if some of these guys have too bad of a day, Reddick, Briscoe, and Bowman, or particularly Reddick, is not that far back where he could catch some of these guys if he has a really good day and they have a really bad day. But 2nd through 6th, man, 23 points. That is going to be a really, really interesting discussion to watch because you need every playoff point you can get. And these guys, while they're all locked into the playoffs with wins, most of them multiple wins, you know, so the pressure's off, but do they play for the points and trying to finish high in regular season standings, or do they just play for another win, which would give them 5 more playoff points? This battle, 2nd through 6th, if you can't see, Chase Elliott 2nd, Denny Hamlin 3rd, Kyle Larson 4th, Ryan Blaney 5th, and Christopher Bell 6th. Those 5 drivers separated by 23 points with it all to play for in the last week. All of them should be championship contenders on a year in, year out basis. I, for one, am fascinated to see how it shakes out. And that might be more interesting than the race winner, especially if the race winner is a repeat winner. Tyler Reddick, 7th in points. Lost a lot of ground to the people in front of him. Obviously, he was fast this weekend. Just, again, bad luck. I do think Reddick's going to win. I think eventually his luck is going to change. But now Tyler Reddick has to be careful not to fall to 8th. Chase Briscoe is only 16 points behind him. That's something that's very doable at Daytona, especially if you get caught up in a big wreck early. Chase Briscoe has been sitting in 8th place for a super long time, slowly trying to knock points down to get up. And then Blaney was in front of him, and you see where Blaney is now, so he couldn't catch up with them, but he slowly caught up with Tyler Reddick over the course of the summer. Can Chase Briscoe finally get it around Tyler Reddick to get in the 7th, or is Reddick going to fight him off? And now Bowman, after a great weekend, is right on the heels of Briscoe, only 13 back of Briscoe. So if Briscoe's not careful, he can fall to 9th, or he's only getting 2 playoff points instead of 1. And Bowman could not even make the playoffs. So who even knows what's going to happen there? Again, there's great close point battles all up and down. Bubba Wallace, probably too far back to catch Bowman. And Briscoe is too far back, really, to catch Briscoe. So Bubba Wallace here is fighting for 10th and 1 extra playoff point. Buescher, however, is not in the playoffs right now, so Buescher would have to win to be able to pass him. Joey Logano could catch him, right? Somebody like Joey Logano, who is only 23 points back, but Bubba Wallace has a decent cushion to be in the top 10 here. And again, only those top 10 people in regular season standings will receive extra playoff points. Chris Buescher is 11th in the regular season standings and is on the outside looking in. It's not even possible for him to point his way in, I believe, which would be crazy, which is kind of crazy. Joey Logano up to 12th. Ryan Preece down to 13th. Ross Chastain still 14th. Cindric passing Kyle Busch for 15th. Doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but good for Cindric. Kyle Busch down to 16th. He's been in a win to get in situation for like a month now. Ty Gibbs there, Allmendinger in the same situation. Keselowski, Hocevar, all of those guys have been were in the top 20 last week. They're still in the top 20 this week, and everybody after Austin Cindric needs a win to get in anyway, and Ryan Preece does as well. Let's look at the current playoff standings now. One thing I want to tell you guys: William Byron is technically sitting on 17 playoff points. I went ahead and gave him the 15 bonus points because he's already won the regular season, so we know he has those. So I added 15 on the William Byron 17. So if you're curious as to why it looks weird or why it looks like that, it's because I went ahead and added the 15, which puts William Byron first in playoff points. Denny Hamlin can still catch him with a couple stage wins or with a win, or if he finishes second or third in the regular season standings, he'd be right there with William Byron as well. So Denny Hamlin can still be this one seed. So can somebody like Kyle Larson. Hamlin with 24, Larson at 23. Shane Van Gisbergen can't improve unless he wins a stage or wins the race this week, as he's nowhere near the top 10 in points. But he does have 22 playoff points from those road courses. Christopher Bell looking to move ahead of Shane Van Gisbergen, and really he should at worst tie him in the points battle that he's in. Ryan Blaney would love to finish second. It would put him a lot closer to those guys at the top. Austin Cindric still has 8, but he gets a lot of stage points and has his race win at super speedways. So Austin Cindric is a threat to pick up some more points and try and help build his cushion. Bubba Wallace winning a stage last week brought him from 7 stage points to 8 stage points, what should be the most he's ever gone into the playoffs with in his career. Briscoe and Logano still tied at 7. Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain, Josh Berry at 6, and Austin Dillon is at 5 after last week's race win. And then we get to the 2 guys currently in the playoffs on points. Tyler Reddick, 89 points good to the bubble with 2 playoff points. Alex Bowman, 60 points good to the bubble. Chris Buescher, back 60 points, still has -3 playoff points because of the penalty earlier in the year. Ryan Preece is now, how quickly things change. Ryan Preece is now -94 in the playoff standings. Needs a win to get in. Does have 2 playoff points if he can figure it out. And then Busch and Ty Gibbs now are 148 and 137 back respectively. Again, doesn't change their situation. They've been in the same situation the last couple weeks. Unfortunately for Tyler Reddick, he is no longer he is not clinched. If you're asking, he's 89 points up, he should have clinched. Well, here's the situation. A brand new winner that is not into the playoffs would knock Tyler Reddick to the 16th spot. But Bowman, 39 points, while a lot and very difficult to make up in 1 week, it is possible, especially at Daytona where Reddick could get in an early wreck and then Bowman has a good points day. So Reddick, whilst he's feeling okay, really for Reddick, as long as he doesn't allow Alex Bowman to make up 39 points on him, Tyler Reddick will make the playoffs. That's really what it comes down to. And Bowman will they'll both make the playoffs if there's not a new winner. If there's a new winner, that's when it puts both of them in jeopardy and things get interesting. But obviously you don't know that until the end of the race. But if you're a Tyler Reddick or Alex Bowman fan, chiefly cheer for them to win the race. And then secondly, you should be cheering for no new winners and they will both be okay. Driver power rankings. I'll remind everybody one more time what the colors mean going into last week of the regular season. Green, the dark green, means I believe you have the ability to win a championship. You're a championship caliber driver and team. Yellow means you're not quite in that top tier, but you're that second highest tier where you should be making the playoffs every year. That's the talent you have. That's the car you have. And if you get hot, you can make a run to the Final Four, but you're probably still not a favorite like the guys in the dark green. Joey Logano is the only driver in blue because he's the only driver that is Joey Logano, where he can have an average finish of 18th during the whole season and then win the championship. Joey Logano is the microwave because he heats up so fast. Joey Logano was always in a class of his own in this playoff format. He knows how to win in clutch situations. He could not be a top 10 driver or not be part of a top 10 team all season and then find his way to a championship race in the playoffs. And that's why Joey Logano is in blue because of that. This light green color with the 4 drivers in it are drivers that have clinched their way into the playoffs with a win, but I don't think they're a threat to do anything when they get there. They're not championship threats. Maybe they advance one round. Shane Van Gisbergen, has a big points lead where that could happen, but they're really not a threat to win the championship or really even go that far. And then the guys in red are guys that need a win to make the playoffs, but they are still in the power rankings. William Byron is at 1. Blaney stays at 2. Hamlin moves up to 3. Somebody who felt like he could have won the race, apparently, if it wasn't for some mistakes. Kyle Larson had a solid day. He hasn't had a lot of those the last 2 months, so maybe that will help build the momentum again. Just having a solid day. He's in 4th. Bell in 5th, and Chase Elliott down in the 6th. His 2 worst finishes of the season come at a really bad time for him. Obviously, last week finishing last after that wreck. Chase Briscoe stays at 7, just an okay week after getting, was working his way up through the field after, almost spinning out in qualifying, and then gets caught up in the wreck and then drives back to the front, towards the front. Just an okay day for him. But I don't think anybody behind him was close enough to pass him. Alex Bowman, still pretty close. Could pass him going in the next week's power rankings. Who knows? Alex Bowman finishing 2nd. Just wanted more time to get to 1st, I guess. But Alex Bowman having a pretty darn good week is in 8th. Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick are kind of in the same boat for me. They were both really fast. They both could have dominated the race together as a race team, but they both got themselves into some trouble that put them towards the back of the pack, even if it wasn't all necessarily self-inflicted. But they both had lots of great speed last week. Finishes just didn't match it. Tyler Reddick super cold right now, but I still believe that team can be championship caliber when they get it figured out again. Joey Logano up to 11th because Chris Buescher really struggled. Ross Chastain just kind of cruised around in 20th all day and came home with a top 20. Cindric had a great day, moving him up a couple spots in my power rankings. Shane Van Gisbergen tied his career best on an oval track with a 14th place finish. Was the first car a lap down. Ryan Preece, after winning the pole, just did not have pace the rest of the race. He's fallen to 16th. Austin Dillon with a win has to be on this list, and I put him at 17. Barry with a great week, top 10 finish, got some good points. Righting the ship a little bit after so much struggle since winning his race all the way back in March. Kyle Busch falling to 19th, and AJ Allmendinger kind of staying in the top 20 at 20, just kind of hanging around. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your days, your weeks, and your lives for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow me on X. I gave you a couple things to comment for, so there's no excuse for you not to hit the comment section. Let me know your favorites. As always, last week of the regular season. Next week will be the first playoff episode. I'm incredibly excited to see the playoff format. Or not to see the playoff format, but to see the playoffs take shape. Again, I might have a little bit extra NASCAR content because there is some things that I want to talk about. We didn't want to rant about them again in this episode. Everybody stay safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Peace out.